Welcome to the deep dive. So you sent us this big stack of material articles, reports, all about AI and jobs. It's definitely one of the hottest topics right now, isn't it?
Absolutely. It feels like it's buzzing everywhere. Hard to avoid the conversation.
Yeah, and you see these headlines, predicting huge job losses, robots taking over. It creates a lot of anxiety, understandably.
It really does. Easy to feel a bit overwhelmed by it all.
So the big question we want to tackle in this deep dive is that fear justified? Is AI really coming for your job? Or is it more complicated?
That's the mission, right? To unpack all this material you've given us, look at the actual data, especially for India, and try to, well, cut through the noise.
Exactly. Get to what's really important. Because the fear is definitely out there. When you look at some of the numbers, they can seem pretty alarming at first glance.
They certainly can. That's where we started digging in. What's the scale of this potential disruption, according to these reports?
Okay, so what did we find? Lay some of those big figures on us.
Well, globally, the World Economic Forum, they put out projections suggesting, get this, by 2027, so just a few years away, we might see 83 million jobs displaced.
83 million globally. Okay.
But they also predict 69 million new jobs created in the same time frame. So that leaves a net loss, about 14 million worldwide.
Right, a net loss of 14 million. Still a huge number, even if it's not the full 83 million just vanishing.
Yeah,
That definitely makes you pay attention.
it does. And then if you zoom in on India, some figures look even, well, starker. The International Labor Organization, the ILO, put out a specific warning.
Oh, what did they say about India?
They suggested that potentially up to 70%, 70% of existing jobs in India could be susceptible to automation and AI.
70%. Wow. How do they calculate something like that? Seems incredibly high.
It's usually based on analyzing the tasks that make up different jobs. If a large chunk of those tasks are things AI could potentially do, the job gets flagged as high risk. It's a broad estimate for sure.
Okay, so it's about potential vulnerability based on tasks. Makes sense. Any other India-specific numbers?
Yeah, the Bank of Baroda offered a more concrete forecast. They estimated a possible displacement of around 20 to 25 million jobs in India specifically by 2030.
20 to 25 million by 2030. Okay, so moving from general risk to predicted displacement. Which sectors are we talking about here? Where's the biggest impact expected?
Consistently, across the reports we looked at, sectors like IT, customer support, retail, finance, those pop up again and again in the Indian context. They rely heavily on processes that AI is getting good at.
Right. And globally.
Globally, Goldman Sachs threw out a number. Potentially 300 million full-time jobs worldwide could be automated to some degree by AI.
300 million. That's a massive global figure.
It is. And the types of jobs mentioned most often, it's the stuff you'd expect, really. Repetitive tasks, data entry, basic admin roles, some accounting functions, financial analysis that's very routine, drivers, call centers.
Yeah, roles with highly structured, predictable work. Less about complex human interaction or, nuanced judgment.
Exactly. But, and this is crucial, this is where our deep dive kind of says, hold on a second, because job shifts due to technology. That's not new.
Right. That's what I was thinking. It feels like we've heard this before. The classic example everyone uses is ATMs, isn't it? Bank tellers were supposed to disappear.
Precisely. And what actually happened? ATMs handled the simple stuff, cash withdrawals, deposits, but the tellers, their jobs changed. They didn't vanish.
They shifted to more complex things.
Yeah.
Advice, sales, problem solving.
Exactly. Things needing a human touch. And the material we looked at suggests AI might follow a similar path. It's often more about augmenting jobs, making people better at them, rather than just wiping them out.
Augmenting, like a super tool, not just a replacement. Did we find examples of that happening already?
Oh yeah, some really interesting ones, like doctors using AI tools for diagnosis, getting 20–30% higher accuracy in some cases. The AI isn't replacing the doctor, it's like a super assistant.
Helping them see things they might miss.
Right. Or lawyers using AI for case prep, cutting down research time by like 40%. Financial analysts using AI boosting their prediction accuracy by 25%.
So the AI crunches the data, spots the patterns, and frees up the human for the higher level stuff. Strategy, client interaction, the complex decisions.
That's the core idea. It's more of a partnership. Now, we do have to be clear, some roles that are almost entirely repetitive, yeah, those might face serious disruption or reduction.
Okay, fair point. Can't ignore that reality.
But the flip side, mentioned consistently in the reports, is that new jobs are also popping up. Roles that frankly didn't even exist a few years ago.
Ah, okay, this is where it gets really interesting. What kind of new jobs are emerging from this AI wave?
Things like AI ethicists, people whose whole job is making sure AI is developed and used responsibly, fairly, without bias.
That sounds vital.
Totally. And then there are prompt engineers becoming experts at talking to these AI models to get the best results. And even things like medical AI translators.
Medical AI translators, what do they do?
They bridge the gap, basically. They take the complex output from an AI diagnostic tool and explain it clearly to doctors and patients, ensuring it's understood and used correctly.
Prompt engineer. I mean, who'd heard of that 3 years
Yeah.
ago? It just shows how fast this skills landscape is shifting.
Exactly. The job market isn't static, it's morphing.
Okay, let's bring this specifically to India now. Huge population, young workforce, very tech-savvy in many ways. How does this AI story play out there?
India's in a fascinating spot. You've got that demographic pressure needing jobs, but also this rapid tech adoption. The government's economic survey for 2024-25 actually takes a pretty positive view.
Oh, yeah. How do they frame it?
They talk about AI mainly as a tool for workforce augmentation, boosting productivity, driving growth, potentially more inclusive growth if it's managed well.
So focusing on the enhancement side, are we seeing actual job creation linked to AI in India yet?
Yes, there are definitely signs. NASSCOM, the IT industry body, they predict the IT sector alone could add around 1 million AI-related jobs by 2025.
1 million.
Yeah.
Just in IT. By next year. That's
Yeah.
significant.
It is. And McKinsey has estimates, too, suggesting AI could help create maybe 950,000 new jobs in manufacturing by 2030.
Okay, so real potential on the creation side, too. And companies are jumping in.
For sure. We saw examples like TCS using AI for internal automation, freeing up people, Flipkart using AI chatbots, Zomato with their recipe rover for better recommendations.
And the government's involved.
Yeah, they launched the India AI mission, putting serious money like ours, 2,000 crore, into building infrastructure, data sets, supporting homegrown AI.
So there's momentum.
Yeah.
But you mentioned challenges earlier. What are the big hurdles for India specifically, according to these sources?
Yeah, despite the optimism, there are major hurdles. One big one is that a lot of India's workforce is in the service sector, and many of those jobs, as we said, are quite vulnerable to automation.
Right, the customer service, the back office stuff.
Exactly. And the economic survey itself, while generally positive, does warn about the risk of structural unemployment, especially hitting middle and lower wage workers if things aren't managed well.
Structural unemployment, meaning a fundamental mismatch between skills and jobs.
Pretty much. People whose skills become obsolete, leaving them stuck unless they can reskill. And that leads to probably the single biggest challenge highlighted, the skills gap.
Ah, yes. The gap between the skills people have and the skills needed for this new AI world. How bad is it in India?
It looks pretty wide, actually. One NASSCOM study we reviewed found only about 17%. 17% of the current workforce has the kinds of skills needed for AI-era jobs.
Only 17%. But you said companies are eager to adopt AI.
Right. The same study found 92% of Indian companies are prioritizing AI adoption. So you have massive demand brewing, but the skilled workforce isn't there yet. It's like needing builders, but only a few know how to use the new power tools.
That's a stark mismatch. So the demand for AI talent must be huge.
Projected to be massive, expected to hit 1 million professionals needed by 2026, up from around 416,000 now. The India Skill Report did note progress vocational training tripled since 2017, but it's clearly not enough to close that gap quickly.
So what's being done? What solutions or strategies did the reports point to?
There are efforts on multiple fronts. Government things like the AI Task Force, NTII's national strategy, plus the private sector, especially ed tech platforms.
Like BYJ-US you mentioned. Using AI to teach AI.
Yeah, tools like their B80RI and MathGPT, using AI for personalized learning at scale. But fundamentally, the report stressed the need for a bigger shift in education itself.
Beyond just coding.
Way beyond. More focus on critical thinking, data analysis, creativity, problem solving. And yeah, these new skills like prompt engineering, it's about learning how to work with AI.
And this whole challenge, the skills gap, the potential disruption, it's global, right? Not just India.
Oh, absolutely. You've got the whole US versus China AI race happening. The Goldman Sachs 300 million global jobs figure underlines it. But India's situation, with that huge young population, makes the skilling challenge incredibly urgent.
But history does offer some comfort, doesn't it? Thinking about the Industrial Revolution or computers in the 80s, society adapted.
It transformed dramatically. Agricultural workers moved to factories. Typists became IT support or learned different admin skills. Jobs changed. New industries were born. It wasn't mass extinction of work, it was evolution.
And India's startup scene could fuel that evolution.
It's definitely a major asset. Over 7,000 AI startups, attracting billions in investment. If that energy is channeled into practical, scalable AI solutions for real problems, it could create a lot of those new collar jobs. Less hype, more practical application.
Okay, let's double-click on those new jobs again. Beyond the ethicists and prompt engineers, what other roles are seeing high demand?
Roles directly tied to building, training, and managing AI. Things like AI trainers, people who actually teach the models. Cybersecurity experts are huge because AI creates new security risks. Robotic engineers for the physical side.
So managing the machines, essentially.
And working alongside them. McKinsey predicts a big jump, like 35–45% in demand for these domain-specific roles by 2030.
Can we see this shift in Indian companies?
Yeah, look at Swiggy using AI for search or voice queries. They still need humans to design it, monitor it, handle tricky cases. Or insurance tech using AI for fraud detection or vehicle inspections. The human role shifts from doing the tedious check to overseeing the AI, interpreting its findings, handling exceptions.
So efficiency changes the nature of the work. And there's a potential big economic upside, too.
Huge. EY estimates generative AI alone could add somewhere between $359 and $438 billion to India's GDP by the end of the decade.
Wow. That kind of growth creates jobs across the board, doesn't it?
Generally, yes. Plus, AI could revolutionize big sectors like agriculture, banking, retail, potentially creating millions more jobs if it's implemented smartly.
Okay, the potential's clear. But let's be realistic, back to those hurdles.
Sure.
What else did the sources mention standing in the way?
Infrastructure is a big one. You need reliable, high-speed internet, massive computing power for widespread AI. India is building things like the India AI Datasets platform, but getting enough high-quality, diverse data to train AI for everything. That's a monumental task. Data quality is often an issue.
Right, the foundations need to be solid. What else?
Trust, plain and simple. One source mentioned only about 41% of consumers are actually comfortable with AI making personalized suggestions or decisions for them.
That's quite low, so building public trust is key.
Absolutely. Transparency about how AI is used, how data is handled, it's crucial. And we can't forget the environmental side. These big AI models and data centers use a lot of electricity and water. Sustainability needs to be part of the conversation.
Definitely. So given all this, what's the recommended path forward for India according to the material, like the economic survey's plan?
They laid out a kind of three-pronged strategy. First is boosting skills AI literacy for everyone, plus deep skills for specialists. The government's aiming to train 1 million people, but the reports emphasize this needs massive private sector help too. Think TCS, BYJUS, but scaled way up.
Okay, skilling up. What's number 2?
Second is supporting the workers most at risk. Reskilling programs specifically designed for people in vulnerable jobs, helping them transition to new roles or roles augmented by AI. Scaling up initiatives like the AI Task Force.
Makes sense. And the third prong?
Responsible AI deployment, setting the rules of the road, ethical guidelines, clear policies, preventing bias like that UK autocorrect example, making sure AI is used fairly and transparently to build that public trust.
And focusing innovation where?
On practical stuff. Enterprise automation, fintech, supply chains, agriculture areas where AI can deliver real, measurable value, not just buzz. That's what drives sustainable adoption and job creation.
It's a really complex mix. But it brings me back to, what can AI not do? What's fundamentally human here?
And that's maybe the most important takeaway. AI is incredible at analysis, at patterns, but it lacks genuine creativity. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't grasp context the way humans do. It works within its programming. It can't think truly outside the box or understand complex emotions.
So the human skills, originality, emotional intelligence, complex judgment, ethics, they become even more valuable.
Absolutely critical. Depth knowledge in a field combined with those human skills. That's the winning combo. You need AI ethicists applying human values. You need medical AI translators adding empathy and context to a machine diagnosis. Even companies automating some roles still need humans for oversight, strategy, design, handling the messy, real-world stuff AI can't.
It's like AI is this amazing new paintbrush.
But humans are still the artists, deciding the vision, mixing the colors, creating the meaning. It's a great analogy.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, after digging through everything, the fear versus the future, where do we land? Mass unemployment panic justified.
I think the consensus from the material is likely exaggerated. The really extreme predictions of permanent mass joblessness, History suggests that's probably not how it plays out. Economies adapt, people adapt.
But the risk isn't zero, especially for certain groups.
No, definitely not zero. The disruption for specific jobs, particularly those heavy on routine tasks, is very real. That Bank of Baroda number 25 million displaced in India by 2030, that should absolutely be seen as a wake-up call.
A call to action, not a death sentence.
Exactly. It highlights the urgency for skilling, reskilling, supporting that transition.
And India has the pieces, potentially, to turn this challenge into an opportunity.
It really does. The young population, the startup energy, government initiatives starting. It's like making that complex, spicy curry we talked about.
Right. Intense, potentially overwhelming.
But if you get the ingredients and the process right, the skills, the investment, the responsible approach, the focus on real solutions, the result could be amazing, immense value creation.
So let's bring it home for the listener. What does all this mean for you, personally, looking ahead?
Well, one stat that really jumped out at me was from the World Economic Forum again. They predict that globally, around 39% of core job skills will change by 2030.
39% globally. And in India.
Pretty much the same, 38%. Think about that. Nearly 40% of the fundamental skills needed for work could be different in just 6 years.
That really drives home the need for constant learning, adaptation.
It absolutely screams flexibility, curiosity, lifelong learning. But the good news is India is historically pretty good at adopting new things quickly. Look at UPI payments, boom, everywhere. That adaptability is a huge strength.
So the advice isn't to fear AI or hide from it.
No, quite the opposite. Line into it, get curious, understand how it's affecting your field or fields you're interested in, and double down on those uniquely human skills. Creativity, critical thinking, communication, empathy, those are your durable assets.
Because AI needs that human element to really work for us.
It absolutely does. The future looks like humans and AI working together, complementing each other's strengths. So, don't let the scary headlines paralyze you. This change is happening. AI is a huge part of it, but humans, we're still essential. Go figure out how to make it work for you.